There once was a temple board that was voting on an important congregational policy. The rabbi made her case for what she believed, and then the president made his case with the opposing view. The board voted in agreement with the president, and he looked at the rabbi and said, "I'm sorry, the vote is 10-1. The motion is defeated." The rabbi stood up and passionately begged God to intervene, to show the board that the rabbi was right, that the rabbi knew what Jewish values would say, what the Torah really meant. And just then the walls started shaking, the ark opened, and a heavenly voice proclaimed, "The rabbi is correct." The president stood up, looked at the board, the rabbi, the open ark, and quickly said, "My mistake. The vote is actually 10-2. The motion is still defeated." Who has the final say on how we understand Judaism? And what do we do when we disagree? While this joke is clearly meant to amuse, in a way, it's a retelling of a very famous and important Talmudic story that quotes our Torah portion this week. The story begins as the rabbis of the first century consider the status of an oven invented by an entrepreneur named Achnai. Rabbi Eliezer, the patron elder statesman of the academy, declared that the oven was pure, but his colleagues disagreed and overruled him. Rabbi Eliezer offers every argument, but his colleagues will not budge. The oven is declared impure. Enraged that neither his stature nor his argument could sway the debate, Rabbi Eliezer produces a miracle and says, "Let the carob tree prove it." The earth then shuddered and the carob uprooted itself and rocketed into the air. "No proof can be brought from a carob tree," the scholars retorted. "Okay, let the stream of water prove it." Whereupon the stream flowed backward. "No proof can be brought from a stream." Rage pent up soon became spite, and Rabbi Eliezer, now boiling with frustration, turned to the walls of the academy and commanded them to fall in upon the assembled scholars. The walls did in fact begin to shake, but just then Rabbi Joshua arose and addressed the walls. "When scholars are in debate, what right have you to interfere?" And so the walls did not fall in honor of Rabbi Joshua, but neither did they resume their upright position in deference to Rabbi Eliezer. Finally, beyond all restraint, Rabbi Eliezer invokes the highest authority and says, "If I am right, let it be proved by heaven." Whereupon the Talmud tells us that a heavenly voice called out, "Why do you dispute Rabbi Eliezer? In all things, the law agrees with him." And at that moment, Rabbi Joshua arose again, quoting a verse from this week's Torah portion, and proclaimed, the Torah, is not in heaven. What did he mean by this? Well, Rabbi Yirmiyah explains the Torah has already been given at Mount Sinai, and therefore we pay no attention to a heavenly voice anymore. The Torah, argued Rabbi Joshua, was given to human beings to understand and interpret. Once given, even God had no say on how the Torah would be interpreted. Rabbi Joshua claimed that not even God could overrule this majority of rabbis. This famous story offers many interesting and important lessons for our world today. But for tonight, I'd like us to look first at the idea that when people disagree, no one can proclaim they have heaven clearly on their side. Even if someone believes they are certainly right, nothing is beyond dispute. Our tradition believes that our job is to continually analyze our text and to work together to decide what we believe it teaches. In many circumstances, there is no ultimate answer, no singular right opinion. Furthermore, the story eventually ends with heartbreak and tragedy. And from this conflict that we encounter, we learn the importance of civility from the Talmud and the danger of writing off those who we disagree with. We are also subtly reminded that even in disagreement, we should show one another respect. Just as the walls of the house of study stopped falling out of respect to Rabbi Joshua, but they did not straighten up out of respect to Rabbi Eliezer, we learn that even when we disagree strongly, even if we believe or know in our hearts that one opinion is right and the other is wrong, it is still possible to treat those we disagree with dignity and respect. I think we need to learn how to do that again. This night, this September 11th, I think about our nation and believe this story is speaking directly to us in these times. I know there are a lot of Americans who stand firm, passionately unwilling to see different opinions or contrasting political views as having any merit. But Rabbi Shai Held reminds us that good people can disagree with what justice requires of us. Good people sometimes disagree on what's best for our world. Nevertheless, we embrace everyone's right to hold their opinion and to work to elect those who they believe best represent their understanding of what is most needed. Rabbi Steve Guto looks at our political divide in this country and declares that democracy is messy and American politics have always been hard fought. But for some time now, the fight has not just been hard, but ugly. The art of listening has been jettisoned in the rush to be heard as we amplify our voices through name-calling, mudslinging, and fabrication. Looking at this week's Torah portion, I believe we can gain insight for how to best respond to this moment in our history. We can learn the importance of speaking and disagreeing without being ugly or unkind. We have a double Torah portion this week, Nitzavim Vayelech, and an analysis of the names of these two parshiot show that they have opposite meanings. The word Nitzavim means standing, while Vayelech means going. And more than that, Nitzavim is not just about standing still, but has a connotation of standing firm. When is it appropriate to stand firm in our opinions? And when do we know when it's time to move, to change, to bend? The combination of these two ideas, the pairing of standing and moving, presents us with a useful paradigm for our lives. There are times to stop and times to let ourselves be moved. There are moments to remain steadfast and moments to release. Values, passion, and a firm stance are beautiful, but we need to be able to move a little bit, or at the very least, be open to the idea of moving and to listen with ears truly trying to understand, and to make sure that while we stand firm in our beliefs, we are never knocking anyone else down. Disagreements do not always need to lead to resentment, and conflict can also bring mutual respect and more understanding. Come on, it's part of our tradition. You all know the saying, 2 Jews, 3 opinions. It turns out that Jewish tradition sees disagreement not as needing to be negative, but if done right, as healthy and even holy. In another famous story from the Talmud, 2 rival houses of scholars, Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel, disagree for 3 years on certain matters of halakha, Jewish law. Finally, a divine voice calls from heaven, Elu ve'elu divrei Elohim. These and these are the words of the living God. Judaism values a plurality of opinions while also acknowledging the need for standards and rules that the whole community abides by. Judaism should absolutely lead us to strong, value-based beliefs and opinions. We may stand firm and resolute, but we also must remember that there's a price to pay when we let ourselves believe ours is the only truth. Israeli poet Yehuda Amichai wrote, "From the place where we are right, flowers will never grow in the spring. The place where we are right is hard and trampled like a yard. But doubts and loves dig up the world like a mole, a plow, and a whisper will be heard in the place where the ruined house once stood." This Shabbat, let us learn from our double Torah portion and our rich Jewish tradition that no matter how firm we stand, no matter how deeply we believe, it is good to make space for the opinions and possibilities offered by others. And even if we choose to remain strong in our opinions, we react kindly to those who we disagree with. Shabbat Shalom.